History never erases significant figures. Amidst the tale of rare female legends, Cleopatra's formidable yet powerful existence would remain unforgettable till the world's end. Her character appearance in several Hollywood films and at least a gazillion books won't let you forget her. She's been glorified in literature and on film, but in a completely misleading way. She was one of history's most astute and powerful queens, yet her true story has been forgotten in most historical chronicles. Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. Before we start, please subscribe to our channel, Uncovering Myth, to get more interesting videos about anything in history. Egyptian tales had several Cleopatra. Our mind picturizes the word Cleopatra as the only legendary Egyptian queen representing the essence of beauty, but that's not true. Cleopatra was the 8th lady to carry the name in the Ptolemaic dynasty. Cleopatra VII, Thea Philopator, was her full name, which meant the father-loving goddess in Greek. Cleopatra VII reigned over the Egyptian Ptolemaic Kingdom for nearly 2 decades. Her possessions of luxuries, as well as her involvement in some of the most intriguing affairs, makes her one of the most muscular women in history. Cleopatra's scary eye makeup was done for eye protection. Did you ever imagine that trademark eye makeup was done to protect eyes? You can get hardly an image of her that doesn't portray the black coal eyelids, and this is often extended down from the side of the face to form artistic spirals. Sources claim that the coal was made from 4 distinct lead-based compounds and was intended to prevent eye infections rather than to improve appearance. Eye infection seemed pretty common in ancient Egypt. While the Nile overflowed, it swept up all kinds of marshy filth into the water, which might subsequently enter into people's eyes and cause irritation. Because the lead-based composition was poisonous to the germs that causes the disease, it did have a curative impact. With Cleopatra's shrewd mind, she gracefully blended this peculiar yet protective act into her elegant attire. Her marriage with her brothers. To maintain the chastity of their lineage, Ptolemaic dynasty members had to wed within the family. There are at least a dozen examples of such marriages among Cleopatra's ancestors, and it's possible that her parents were siblings. However, the affection between the family members stopped there. In that era, siblings didn't hesitate to slaughter each other, whereas moms beheaded their children for the glory of power. Either marrying or murdering, destined to happen in their life. Just like the phrase, winner take all, isn't it? Ptolemy VIII, Cleopatra's younger brother by 8 years, was sometimes taken as her spouse when their father died, but they soon turned on one another. At the age of 21, Cleopatra found herself in the Sinai Desert seeking to rally an army and retake Egypt's throne. She was assisted by a formidable force. To take back Egypt, Cleopatra got connected with the forces of Roman ruler Julius Caesar. In this path of revenge, Cleopatra bore him a son. She regained the kingdom from her younger brother with the help of Caesar's soldiers. She co-ruled with her other brother, Ptolemy XIV, whom she later married. Later, she staged his murder through poisoning. Then she had her sister Arsinoe executed. Her crime was siding with Ptolemy during the family conflict and declaring herself queen at one time. So practically Cleopatra had been involved in her sibling's death. How cruel is this? We can't even imagine doing this, but for them, it was a regular thing. She was the mother of 4 children. Julius Caesar and Cleopatra had one child, who was named after his father and called Little Caesar. Caesarion was executed by the Roman Emperor Augustus following her suicide. Cleopatra and Mark Antony had 3 children, Ptolemy Philadelphus, and twins Cleopatra Selene and Alexander Helios. None of these 4 children lived to rule Egypt. She was quite an unfortunate mother, don't you think? Cleopatra's beauty was a conspiracy from Roman propaganda. Well, if you asked me to name the most known trait of Cleopatra, most of you would go for her beauty. Because that's how she was portrayed in history. Roman propaganda characterized Cleopatra as a flirtatious politician who exploited her sexual allure. Yet she was likely more well known for her sharp mind than her attractive body. She was trained in mathematics, philosophy, oratory, and astronomy, and could speak up to a dozen languages. Later, Egyptian sources characterized her as a monarch who promoted the ranks of academics and loved their companionship. Furthermore, contrary to popular belief, Cleopatra wasn't as physically attractive as originally thought, although some historians claim that she purposely posed herself as masculine as a demonstration of power. It was further confirmed when the ancient author Plutarch claimed Cleopatra's beauty was not altogether incomparable, and what made her so alluring was her dulcet speaking voice and irresistible charm. But what do you think about her beauty and charm? This Egyptian queen wasn't from Egypt. Although Cleopatra hailed from the long line of non-Egyptian kings, she was the last descendant to rule as a queen. Her reign marked the end of the Ptolemaic era. Egypt became a Macedonian and Greek possession after Alexander the Great's invasion in 332 BCE. Following Alexander's demise, Ptolemy, a nobleman from Macedonia, seized power in Egypt and founded a dynasty that ruled the empire for 10 generations. Her dramatic entrance to seek attention. Cleopatra wanted to portray herself as a living goddess. She used skillful stagecraft to win over potential supporters to strengthen her power strategy. Her reputation for being dramatic was proved by several pieces of evidence. That includes the arrival of Julius Caesar in Alexandria during her conflict with her brother Ptolemy XIII. Expecting Ptolemy's force would stop her from meeting the general of the Romanian army, she disguised herself. But with what? With carpet, and some say linen sack, to sneak into the general's private quarter. Rather than dramatic, courageous would fit her more. What are your thoughts? Well, her efforts paid off. The young queen in her regal attire fascinated Caesar. The two quickly became allies and fell in love. Later, in her rendezvous with Mark Antony, Cleopatra used a similar dramatic ploy. She is claimed to have traveled in a golden barge with purple sails and silver oars when summoned to Tarsus to see the Roman triumvir. Cleopatra had been made up to look like the goddess Aphrodite. She sat beneath a gilded canopy, while attendants dressed as cupids fanned her and burned sweet-smelling incense. Antony, who considered himself the embodiment of Greek god Dionysus, was instantly enchanted. And why not? Who wouldn't be enchanted? Cleopatra once spent around $20 million on a cocktail. Legend says that Cleopatra once bet Mark Antony that a single meal can make her spend 10 million sesterces. That is the equivalent to around $10 million to $20 million in modern currency. She then asked for a simple supper and ordered her attendants to serve her a cup of vinegar. She then removed one of her earrings, removed the pearl, dropped it in the vinegar, and watched it dissolve. Then she drank the cup of vinegar, demonstrating that she would do anything to win the bet. Well, she did win the bet, but created an example of how proficient her chemistry knowledge was. So, guys, we can say that she was a beauty with a brain, can't we? Her wealth made her the richest person in the world. 2,000 years ago, at her highest peak of authority, Cleopatra's reign spread from modern-day Libya in the west to modern-day Syria in the east, all the way across the Mediterranean. This created the record of ruling the vast amount of land by any woman. She was the wealthiest lady in the world and the absolute ruler of over 7 million subjects. She was the wealthiest individual in history, with an estimated $95.8 billion in today's value. The cause of Cleopatra's death remained a mystery. After losing the epic naval battle at Actium to Octavian's forces, Cleopatra and Antony were remembered for taking their own lives in 30 BCE. Though most people agree that Antony committed suicide by stabbing himself in the stomach, there is still doubt about how Cleopatra ended her life. Some claims that Cleopatra killed herself by luring an asp, a viper, to bite her arm. Many academics now believe that Cleopatra killed herself with a pin that had been dipped in some kind of toxic poison, since she was known to hide a lethal poison in one of her hair combs. Her death put an end to her perfect story. Modern Egyptian sources claim that Cleopatra was much more adored and supported by her people. Cleopatra was proud to be an Egyptian pharaoh, unlike her Ptolemaic ancestors who spoke Greek and followed Greek customs. She deeply involved herself to study the language and has several self-portraits drawn in the classical Egyptian manner. Following her demise, Egypt didn't gain its freedom till the 20th century. With the change of time, Cleopatra's legacy became a part of our modern world. Her true story turned out to be more intriguing than what we know. With this, we conclude this video. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the video and any ideas you have for future videos.